Hey everybody, welcome to another IncGamers podcast. With me, Peter Parrish, and my usual panel of, I'm not going to say guests, fellow employees and colleagues, Mr. Paul Younger.
Hello. Hello everybody.
Broadcasting from Space Pod IncGamers.
In space.
Again, yeah.
I'm in space.
Very nice. And Mr. Tim McDonald, not broadcasting from space, alas.
Hello. No, not broadcasting from a child's bedroom either.
Again, just two in a row where you've not been broadcasting from the child's bedroom. That's a good record. Keep it up. Coming up, I'll be talking about The Bridge, an MC Escher-inspired puzzle game. Tim has told me he'll be talking about the testicles of Sherlock Holmes, but I suspect that is just a hilarious misinterpretation of that game's name. But we'll find out. That'll be all coming up. First of all, we'll go through the week's news, I think, and sad though it is to say, we sometimes have to address console news on this PC-centric podcast.
Oh dear.
I know, but it has to be done. Last week the PS4 was, I don't want to say revealed because they didn't actually show anyone what it looks like, but they did admit that it exists and tell us a few things about it, and it does relate to the PC in a few ways, not least because a couple of the games that they showed will also be appearing on the PC. And of course there was the whole Diablo 3 reveal as well, which tangentially relates to the PC. So both of you watched the PlayStation conference, I believe. Do you both have an affinity with the word synergy at this point?
The whole thing was just just lots of buzzwords. That was it. Synergy, social. Can't use a mouse. Don't have a keyboard.
I was genuinely sat there throughout the entire presentation just waiting. I was thinking, okay, now they're going to show us what the console looks like. Okay, they'll show us it after this. Oh, they're saving it for the end. They're going to show us it as the very last thing. Oh, no, it's over.
Yeah,
did they forget?
Yeah, maybe. The Sony technical people are in the back going, oh god, was this today? Oh shit, hang on.
There's some guy in the back with a cardboard box sort of drawing sort of a D-pad on the thing, you know.
Didn't quite get it done in time.
Yeah, everything shown there was actually running on a PC.
Well, I know this can get us into some PCs. I know that I think Watch Dogs was once again running on a PC as it was at E3. I believe the people from Ubisoft confirmed that. So I'm pretty sure that the latest Watch Dogs gameplay demo video thing was indeed running on a PC. So that looked all right again, I think.
We even managed to infiltrate the Sony conference where they're announcing their new console. Even there, we're showing off PC footage.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the new Watch Dogs footage, Tim? I'm going to come to you with that question.
It looks really good. I mean, I'm always wary when it comes to gameplay videos because inevitably they can just be cherry picking the absolute best moments, and for all we know, it might actually be a really boring slog. But it looks really good. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it.
That's a person of interest, the game, though, isn't it?
That was what I called it the other day. Yeah, it's very similar. That last trailer in particular was really, really similar to the American TV show Person of Interest in a number of little ways.
Is it very? I haven't seen that. Is it very hacking and tech based kind of thing?
So you've got a special forces guy who goes out helping people. They kind of work out that crime is likely to happen, violent crime is likely to happen to such and such a person, and so they go and follow them around and investigate. And he's got a guy talking to him constantly through his ear who can hack into absolutely anything and so on and so forth. And yeah, it did look quite Watch Dogs, particularly in the bit in the Watch Dogs gameplay footage where he was looking at his phone and it came up and actually said crime probability 90% or something like that when he was following the woman around.
Yeah. It's an impressive phone. My phone can't do that, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it can. It seemed like I was quite pleased. It seemed like there was a lot of scope for just being a total dick as well, because it kind of seems like you can just approach people find out their sort of profession and political leanings, and then if you don't happen to agree with that, just empty their bank account. So in the gameplay video, it was kind of like, oh, he's a pro-life banker or something, so he just rips him off.
I really feel like it's going to tie into, or rather it's going to hit the same neurons that things like Burnout Crash and Roller Coaster Tycoon did, insofar as half of the joy is just going to be setting up massive traffic with regard to putting bollards in the middle of the road when there's lots of cars coming past, things like that. I'm looking forward to doing that, because watching things smash together and explode is one of the joys of gaming, I think. It fundamentally tickles one particular pleasure centre in the brain.
I think there'll be a bit of Just Cause 2 about it, kind of thing. Perhaps a bit less chaotic, possibly. But I was a bit worried for when he, at the end, he kind of hijacks the train, tram system, whatever. I was a bit worried for the people in the back car, because it stops so quickly that I'm kind of thinking that anyone in the back's just kind of been propelled forward at a rapid rate of knots. They're not going to do well after that.
I want to know if you can actually speed up the train enough that it will derail when it hits the corner.
Maybe.
Again, Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah. So what else? Hardware-wise, pretty much all we learned was that it has a shitload of RAM in this PS4. 8 gig of GDDR5 RAM, I believe, which I'm no technically minded person, but apparently that's fancier than GDDR3 RAM, so there you go.
BBC, ABC.
I think
yeah, quite.
I think the important bit from that was more that the RAM is actually unified, and I'd have done my research and I'd known we were going to talk about this, but if I remember rightly, the PS3 had its RAM split up in various ways. And this made coding for it a complete bitch. And so this might mean that games will be a bit easier to get running properly on the PS4. Specs-wise, it's not the most impressive thing I've ever seen, but on the other hand, it's a dedicated gaming system, so the architecture means that it's going to run better than a comparable PC with the same specs.
Boo.
It's the booing sound.
Sorry, I'm probably right on this, unfortunately.
So the upshot basically is if you have a current PC that kind of matches those specifications, you'll probably have to upgrade to play some ports a few years down the line, probably, but nothing too serious. I wouldn't have thought.
I do think that this is going to push PC technology again, though. I think that we are going to have to upgrade within a couple of years, because for the past however many, most games have kind of been across three platforms, the 360, the PS3 and the PC. And the PC versions have generally been somewhat bottlenecked by the console capabilities, because there aren't that many developers who've been wanting to do really high-res textures and change things up for the PC version. And I think that's probably going to change when these new systems launch and games are kind of optimized for them. It's kind of... I suspect that we'll have to upgrade before too long.
So
maybe 2 years.
Should that not mean, though, that we have more PC games coming out with that look less obvious, like ports, if you see what I mean? Because it's getting closer.
Yes and no. I mean, I would imagine that once the PC tech gets pushed ahead that far, PC stuff will once again start looking really good. Although there's kind of diminishing returns on a lot of this anyway. I mean, I know there's a JPEG that's been going around Reddit for a while, and a few other places as well, which basically shows something with 60 polygons, something with 600, something with 6,000, something with 60,000. And 6,000 to 60,000, the difference is negligible compared to 60 to 600. There's kind of diminishing returns. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
I've got to wait and see, yeah. And well, maybe they'll show us what the console looks like at some point, and maybe mention how much it's going to cost and stuff like that. Maybe they're waiting for Microsoft to reveal theirs before they settle on a price or something like that. I don't know.
There might be some truth to that, I don't know. Although there have been rumblings about the price anyway. There have been all sorts of leaked mentions, supposed to be. Most of which actually seemed lower than expected, although considering the uproar when the PS3's price was announced, they may have learned their lesson.
And Paul, I'm going to come to you now, resident Diablo 3 expert, possibly reluctant Diablo 3 expert.
Not at all.
I don't know.
Never.
The the big news from Blizzard's point of view from the Sony event was Diablo 3 coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3.
Okay. First of all, it wasn't really big news because it really...
For Blizzard, it might be.
Well, no, not really. Actually, what everyone seems to forget on all the reports that we've seen is that effectively this was actually announced in 2010. So since 2010, there's been constant discussion and information coming from Blizzard, whether it's been at trade shows or in interviews or just passing comments that have been made in posts on the official boards. It's not really big news. The thing that really was bizarre today is there's lots of stories going around going, oh my god, the PS3 version is offline. Well, no, duh, because that's how they announced that actually at the thing last week. I mean, the fact that it's co-op and you can sit on a sofa and play with your friends, it's obviously fucking offline, isn't it? So, anyway, there's a whole lot of news being made out of no news. It's the features that that we're seeing stories on now were actually all announced last week at the PlayStation event. What I find interesting about it was that the PC community's always had a problem with the interface and some of the interface redesign decisions that were made before the PC version was released. So mainly the skill interface was the main thing, and everyone's going, oh look, it's been redesigned because for the console. They've kind of simplified it, and I actually hated the redesign. I much preferred the old design. But interestingly enough, the screenshots that they put out last week during the announcement were so different from what we've seen before on the PC that actually it looks like they have really gone back and totally redesigned the thing with the console in mind. I will say it does look a little bit rough around the edges, and it doesn't look particularly pretty, to be honest, not what I'd expect from Blizzard standards. But we are dealing with a console controller and an interface that people have to be able to use on a gamepad, so it has to be simplified. There's no connectivity between Battle.net and obviously PlayStation Network. That was just confirmed, although it was bloody obvious anyway that was never going to happen. But it's interesting that this particular franchise is one that they've decided to go back into the consoles with. When you look at StarCraft Ghost, which actually, when I saw that at BlizzCon years ago, it was actually looking shit hot. It was looking really, really good title on the original Xbox, and that was obviously canned. So it seems kind of a little bit odd that this is the one that they pick when they've already gone down the sort of the road with Ghost already. Which was looking pretty good. So I don't know, I think PlayStation gamers will get a kick out of it. It doesn't really affect the PC version. I think a PC version, people are overreacting and freaking out, going, oh no, what does that mean? They're not going to have development's going to be slowed down on PC, stuff's not going to get fixed. So yeah, I don't know, good on them, getting an extra slice of the market.
Well, considering StarCraft Ghost's eventual fate, I suppose there is always the possibility that this won't materialise ever. Although that seems a bit unlikely.
This is going to happen, Tim. It's happening. It's going ahead. I mean, literally a couple of months away, they're going to have a demo of it on show for people to go hands-on with. But
I know, I'm just a bit cynic. What I was going to say, I don't think Diablo's all that surprising, if only because the original Diablo was on console back however many years ago that was. And that was where I first played the full version of the original Diablo. I played the demo on PC, and a friend of mine bought it on PlayStation, and we sat there and went through it in two-player co-op, and it worked surprisingly well.
It's not surprising that they've done it, but I think with all the problems that they have with the PC version, the community's still pissed off that stuff's not been fixed. This has obviously been developed in tandem, and then Jay Wilson leaves at the end of last year as the game director, and you kind of have to wonder, well, has he left to bring somebody else in that has more experience in the console field where they can basically bring the two teams together so that all the patches and updates are all going to be working in sync. That kind of makes more logical sense than him just being pissed off and leaving. But yeah, they still need to sort some of the issues out on the PC version. But it's good in the way that it has come to the console.
I think some people were possibly hoping that Blizzard were going to announce or show something else as well, because I was following along with a few forums while I was watching the conference, and they were kind of going, oh, maybe they're going to show some from Titan, their other MMO, or I don't know, something like that. And then there was just like a string of people going, oh, it's Diablo 3. Which is a bit sad.
But interestingly enough, though, just before we carry on, there was an interesting comment in an interview afterwards where basically they were asked, is it going to come out on the PlayStation? And the only response they had was effectively, well, this is PlayStation's night. So that says to me that it will be coming to the Xbox as well. It's just in a matter of time. I don't think this is going to be any massive exclusive. It's just the way they worded and phrased it. It was kind of along the lines of, we're not going to say, but this is Sony's night, so we're not going to piss on their party, basically.
Yeah, the other thing I learned was that if you want to work or develop for Sony, you have to wear the Sony regimented dress code, which is the light blue, quite new jeans, the button-up shirt, and the sports jacket / blazer, because that seemed to be what every single person was wearing at that conference. Especially Bungie, when they came out, looked like they had never worn that clothing ensemble before in their lives. They looked so damn awkward. Except one guy who was off on the right looking quite smug because he actually knew what he was doing wearing their clothes. That had nothing to do with the PC. I was just amused watching developers look awkward on stage. Is
this your like Oscars red carpet equivalent for the Sony event? Peter's fashion analysis.
Are we now the internet? Are we now the gaming equivalent of Heat magazine?
I hope so. No, I don't. I don't hope so. Actually.
Oh, his shoes were lovely.
Fashion do's and don'ts at E3.
Fashion do's, just wear the jeans, the shirt, and the blazer. That's it. Fashion don'ts, everything else. What else? Oh, we also saw a little bit of Jonathan Blow's The Witness, which is they carefully worded that announcement. They sort of said, "Oh, coming first to PS4 with consoles," but of course that one is coming to the PC as well, and probably at the same time. It might be slightly delayed from that release, I don't know. But yeah, I'm still not sure what this game is. I don't know if either of you have been following it more. It's like a kind of open world island where you go around solving puzzles, but most of the puzzles in the gameplay look like you were just kind of drawing a line on this board, which is like, well, what's the deal with that?
It's an open world puzzle adventure, and there are no puzzles that repeat. Every puzzle is entirely unique, and I still have absolutely no idea what it actually is or how it plays.
Yeah, it looked quite nice.
It did. It had colours, which is something that's quite nice to see these days. It wasn't just brown or a combination of blue and orange. So that was nice. That was good.
It was
bright colours.
It was using all the colours. Yes.
Literally all of the colours. If you analyse it, every colour is there.
Yep.
All of them.
It's true. Maybe that's what you have to do. You have to find all the colours on the island.
Was I changing subject slightly? And this is moving away from stuff that's coming to PC.
Sure.
Was I the only one who was horribly weirded out by the Drive Club footage?
No, you were not the only one.
I missed that.
That was a racing game where the guy basically spent all his time talking about how long they've been modelling the car interiors and how they've been doing every individual fibre on the seats and things like that. It seemed a bit weird.
He was kind of fetishizing the cars to an alarming degree. And then,
yeah, I mean, if you think that Jeremy Clarkson fetishizes cars to an alarming on Top Gear, this guy is like 6 Jeremy Clarksons combined into one.
Oh God, God
really
no!
Racist.
Please.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed the culmination of that presentation, which was, and you can actually open the door and get into the car. It's like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that now if I go outside. Yes. I can open the door of our car and get in it. It's not that exciting.
What was it? was something about how you need to be able to do this because it really signifies that it's a car simulator. You have to actually open the door. And you can just imagine the smell of the car, and then you just slide. It's like, fuck's sake, it's a driving game.
So basically,
I don't particularly need to simulate getting into a car. I've been doing that for 25 years.
So basically, it smells of a combination of farts and air freshener.
Maybe some coffee and some crumbs. Yeah. Basically. I don't know. It was quite odd. You know, we can't talk though. I mean, we have train simulators all over the place on the PC. So.
Well, we've got lumberjack simulators, farming simulators, construction scaffolding simulators. I've seen some weird ones lately. I do keep my eye on all of these simulator things in the hopes that one day I'll get review code and I'll get to play them. And
don't knock it, Tim. The Germans love it. I remember Gamescom last year.
I'm not knocking it. I want to play one.
The queues for Farming Simulator were longer than most of the AAA titles in Germany last year. I swear.
They do very well. It's still slightly puzzling to me, but oh yeah, good on them for finding that niche, that massively popular and successful niche.
It's working for them.
Yeah, I think we should move on now from the PlayStation conference event to bring you the breaking news that Doug Lombardi has not left Valve. Everyone, Doug Lombardi has not left Valve. It's okay. Don't panic.
That's not breaking news.
It might be.
Something not happening is not news.
There was much drama yesterday when someone noticed that Doug Lombardi had not updated his LinkedIn profile for a while, which gave a vague indication that he might have left Valve this month, which is quickly rectified when.
And that matters because
I don't know. Maybe that shows some kind of crisis at Valve or something. He's a name. He's a named guy from Valve.
He never responds to your mails anyway, so it doesn't matter.
He did respond to these because he had to clarify that in fact he was just lazy about updating his LinkedIn profile.
To be fair, Valve did have layoffs recently, so
they did.
It's slightly understandable, but even so, someone not leaving a company is still not news. It's just not.
And in that case, we'll move on from that to some layoffs that actually have and did occur related to the sale of IGN, or the IGN Group, I guess, previously owned by News Corp, who paid an exorbitant amount of millions for it back in whenever it was that they bought it. I did my research on this one, as you can tell. Recently sold it to Ziff Davis Media for a lot less, and they have shut down. They shut down OneUp. They have shut down GameSpy, and as far as I know, they've laid off quite a few people from IGN as well. I know when I talked to you about this, Paul, you thought it was kind of a shame, really, that GameSpy has been treated rather poorly over the past few years after being quite an important, or a very important, gaming portal.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who sort of who's played PC games for, over a decade will recognise the name GameSpy. It was an integral part of being able to play online with the GameSpy server browser, if you go back to the old Quake days and everything. And I always then they kind of rolled the technology into the actual games themselves, almost licensing the tech out, which wasn't great I remember CNC Generals. It was just a nightmare. It was one of the first few games that went on GameSpy, the GameSpy technology. And then that kind of all, as companies started doing it themselves, that all kind of disappeared. But GameSpy in itself was just such a huge brand back then. Like, if you were a fan of a game or you enjoyed it, they had all the Planet sites. Remember Planet Quake, Planet whatever, Planet this, Planet that, Planet Tribes, whatever you want. They had everything pretty much covered, and it just kind of lost its way when it went. When the sale of IGN happened. I know there was big problems. It might be early 2000s financial issues and stuff there, and a lot of stuff was axed. But it was just such a good brand that just kind of seems to have been wasted. I mean, it was a good name. It was a good they had a good sort of identity. It was just wasted, and then it ended up being this sort of news PC blog site, and everything else was just thrown to shit. It was just really disappointing, actually.
I agree to some extent. I mean, the Planet sites were really, really good back in the day. The one thing that saddens me is that of late, the past 12 months or so, GameSpy has been a really good site. I mean, as you say, it's kind of, I don't know whether it really found its identity, but it was very PC focused. It had some really good writers working for it, and it had some decent and original content. And I'm actually sad to see GameSpy go, because it seemed like it was finally finding its footing again, after kind of a period of a few years when things were sort of falling apart a bit.
But it was always just on the, it was always just kind of shuffled on the sideline. You know, IGN have got such a big audience, and I'm sure a lot of people just didn't even know it was there. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It was sort of finding its feet again. It kind of was in the wilderness for a while, but I'm sort of disappointed to see it go. Actually, it's kind of a bit of PC gaming history.
No, I'm sorry to see it go. I'd say not least because of late, GameSpy's content has generally been really good. And it's always sad to see a site that's actually producing decent original content disappear. Yeah, it's sad. It really is. I wish the best to everyone who's having to find new employment from that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would quantify it like this. Of late, I've read a few GameSpy reviews, and far more than I've read IGN reviews, put it that way. So yeah, but I guess they stick with the big, powerful brand, don't they, and try and run based off that.
Do you think it was right that one up and that would go? I mean, is it just too oversaturated now? Does it make sense to consolidate it all into just this big IGN brand?
In business terms, yeah, to some extent. I mean, if you're running 3 game sites, all of which do admittedly have their own audience, but if one of those game sites is IGN, much as I don't like IGN and try to avoid IGN as much as possible, that's the one you're going to keep. Because that's the one that everybody knows, that's the one that makes all the money and gets all the exclusives and so on. As I say, it makes sense from a business decision, but it's still really sad.
Well, looking at the deal, they bought it for a lot less money than News Corp had bought the group for originally. The other thing to bear in mind was that Ziff Davis were filing for bankruptcy fairly recently, so quite where they've kind of magicked up a couple $100 million from, I don't know, but clearly they're going to have to keep overheads on this purchase pretty damn low, just given the circumstances of the deal. So yeah, as you say, Tim, from a business perspective, i.e. the evil corporate bloodless perspective, it makes perfect sense, but from a having good things to read perspective, not so much, unfortunately. Pretty much.
I do just want to quickly throw out, as we've been talking about GameSpy a lot, I do want to point out that OneUp was actually half decent as well. I preferred GameSpy, but OneUp was a decent, well-written site too. Particularly in comparison to IGN.
OneUp got messed around a great deal during News Corp's ownership as well.
Yeah.
You know, there was a period where they shed pretty much all of their staff and then kind of built back up a bit again. And I don't know the full history of that, but they had plenty of troubles during that time. So you know, you can only do what you can with the resources you have. So
let's hope that some of the people from GameSpy and OneUp have gone over to IGN, and IGN's quality will improve a bit, because IGN UK isn't too bad, and a few of the other kind of sister sites in the network aren't too bad either. But the main one.
I think some people have moved over. I don't think everybody's been axed. I think it is just a matter of shuffling bodies around, I think, and some people just have been let go. But R.I.P. GameSpy. Piece of gaming history gone.
Yep.
Indeed. Well, I know someone who might be able to solve the mystery of who killed GameSpy, Tim. It's Sherlock Holmes.
That was awful. Get out. Off you go. Go on, slink off. Thank you.
No, I have to come back to ask you about the Testament, or the testicles of Sherlock Holmes.
Yes,
that you've been playing this week.
I keep saying that I've been playing with the testicles of Sherlock Holmes, and it's mostly not accidental. Yeah, the Testament of Sherlock Holmes, which is a fairly old. Oh dear, that's kind of sad when I can refer to that as fairly old, because I think it's less than a year old. But it's a not recent point-and-click adventure-y thing starring Sherlock Holmes. It's one of the Frogwares ones, who have previously made things like Sherlock Holmes Punches Out Cthulhu, Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper, Sherlock Holmes Tries to Catch Lupin.
Only some of those were made up. I want to find out.
I don't think any of those were made up, actually.
Really? Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes Nemesis, Sherlock Holmes, that was the Lupin one, Sherlock Holmes versus Jack the Ripper, I think it was actually called, and Sherlock Holmes The Awakened was Sherlock Holmes versus Cthulhu. And yeah, they kind of have a reputation for being slightly shonky adventures, which are fairly entertaining, not least because of creepy teleporting Watson. If you haven't seen those videos, you really should.
Basically stalks Sherlock.
The games were played. Yeah, the games were played in a first-person perspective, and Watson had no movement animation. So basically, you would look at him, and then you would walk away from him while still looking at him. You just walk backwards, and then you turn around, and he would mysteriously teleport behind you while you were turning around. You just couldn't escape him. It was horrifying.
So my question is then, does this still occur in the Testament of Sherlock Holmes?
No.
Oh.
It's sad to see it go.
Oh.
I don't know which one's that in actually, because I played The Awakened, and I think I've got Nemesis and Jack the Ripper on here, but I haven't given them a try yet. But yeah, this is the latest one. It's you can tell it's a bit more big budget. I think they've got a new engine. It looks quite a bit nicer. The voice acting is still atrocious, which is good. It's really a kind of B-movie adventure game in a sense. But it's really well made, is the weird thing. It's a little bit rough around the edges, but it looks quite nice. The actual puzzles, for once, make a fair degree of sense. The investigation is quite good fun. And it does kind of intersperse logic puzzles, sort of seventh guest, Professor Layton style things around, but you can skip them if you keep messing them up, and Sherlock just automatically figures it out.
That's quite a good mechanic, because that seems true to life. I don't know if Sherlock helped me out. Oh, it's just this.
It's kind of a weird one plot-wise, because Sherlock is very clearly up to something. Even though you're playing as him, you're not quite sure of what he's up to, but he's acting quite suspiciously. There's bits where you'll find items, and there'll be a note next to them. He'll read the note, and Watson will ask him what was on it, and he goes, "Oh, stop wasting time. I'll explain it later." And it's clear that he's up to something, which is quite nice. There's kind of a little layer of suspense and mistrust. I'm still fairly early on, I think, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. The other thing that I really like about it is it's got a framing device, and it's the stupidest framing device I've ever seen, which is these three kids in presumably the modern day going up into an attic, and up there they find a puppet theatre with Holmes and Watson puppets, and they take a hat down, and they also manage to find some of Watson's lost notes. And the eldest girl is a girl who's I think about 11, and there's one who's about 6, and then there's a boy who looks like he's about 3. The eldest girl starts reading the notes to them, and that's the framing device. You're sort of playing the adventure, and she's reading it to them, which gets quite uncomfortable when the first murder victim turns up, who's a priest who's been tied to a chair, mutilated, his fingers are broken, there's a severed finger on the floor, he's been burnt and slashed, and yeah. I would read that to a 3-year-old, but I'm a sociopath, so... yeah, I like... It's very cheesy, it's a little bit shonky, but it's, so far at least, it's quite a well-made adventure. It's not frustrating. And yeah, I'm enjoying it, quite bizarrely. I think I put it up in a Steam sale the other week for about £5 or £6, and so far it's absolutely worth the money. I'm enjoying it.
IncGamers always up with the latest games. It's good, to delve into stuff that might have passed people by occasionally. It's good stuff.
It is. I mean, this series, I think, is reasonably well known. Well, I think it's reasonably notorious, I should say, thanks to the Watson bugs. But it's not a bad series. It's fairly entertaining as long as you don't mind, as I say, kind of B games. They're well made. They're not massive budget AAA titles, and they are point-and-click adventures, but they are fairly well made for what they are. And generally speaking, they feel fairly faithful to the source material, no matter whether they're dealing with Lovecraft or what. I would recommend giving one of the games a look, although so far this is probably the most user-friendly of the lot.
Right. I've been playing something which for podcast viewers will require a quick change of lighting. I think Tim's going to join me in this. We're going to go all black and white for the bridge. Is a come on, Tim, get your film noir on.
I'm sorry.
There we go.
I've got to ruin the party and just not do it.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. This is a rather nice little puzzle game that was released just last Friday, made by a couple of guys as part of, I think basically as part of a kind of university PhD type project that's then expanded into a full game, based on, or heavily inspired by the drawings of notorious DJ MC Escher, the artist famous for his strange perspective staircases and if you know his artwork, his drawings they kind of follow their own rules. Like the rules within the world are very coherent, but the perspective is all kind of subverted. So the staircases kind of continually loop around in impossible ways and things like that. So basically, in the game, there's 48 puzzles in total. The second half of the game are kind of mirrored from the first, but they're not literally just flipped over. They have a lot of additional extra bits and pieces in them, so it's not just a retread of the first half. But they're basically single-screen puzzles. Your controls essentially extend to the ability to move your main guy left and right. He can't jump or do anything like that. And rotating the entire world. So basically stuff starts off pretty easy. Say you would have you'd have a room which has a kind of sliding blockade on it, that when you spin the room in a certain way, that blockade will slide through due to gravity and move out of the way. So you do that, you rotate that, slide it out of the way and get past, get to the door and escape. That's all very easy. But as you go along, it becomes quite difficult, because you start encountering kind of massive rolling boulder things that obviously if you're in an enclosed space, they can roll and crush you while you're rotating stuff. Sort of weird polarity flipping switches that will kind of, so hard to explain. It feels intuitive when you're playing it, but explaining it is hard. But it basically flips things in the level so that things that previously would travel to the right when you rotated right will now kind of travel to the left instead. That kind of thing.
That sounds kind of brain breaking.
It does. In the latter stages, it gets incredibly difficult when you've got to deal with that, plus the rolling boulders, plus a bunch of other mechanics that it's introduced to you. You've got to grab a couple of keys, maybe use some doors that when you go through them, it will open up, it will change the level and put other doors in the level that when you go through them, it'll change the level layout. But basically, it's like you're in an Escher painting, messing on with some crazy Isaac Newton style physics puzzles. And
Euclidean geometry, I think.
Yeah. And it was a little bit to braid. It has the same time reversal mechanic, but that is essentially just used. It's not used for solving the puzzles. That's just used when you if you screw up and rotate yourself because you can sometimes rotate it in such a way that you basically fall off the world, which isn't too helpful. And time reversal is obviously very helpful there, because you can just whip yourself back onto the structure, and carry on. Yeah, basically the review for this is going to be up on the site pretty soon, and it's breaking our streak of reviewing games with relatively low scores, because I actually very much enjoyed this one. It looks brilliant. It looks very Escher-esque. It's got tight mechanics that it teaches you pretty well. Don't play it if you have any kind of like motion sickness or dizziness. Wouldn't recommend, because there's a lot of rotation. But apart from that, it's all good stuff.
I'm extremely disappointed, Peter, that you're going to break this streak.
Sorry, I reviewed a good game by accident.
It sounds quite a lot like, when you were talking through that in terms of being difficult but incredibly satisfying and being potentially brain-breaking, it reminds me quite a bit of Space Camp, which is probably the best puzzle game I've never finished and never will, because it gets too hard. In terms of...
I'm still stuck actually on the very final set of puzzles in this game. I did not manage to completely finish it. I know, I'm sorry everyone, I tried, but the last couple of levels basically are defeating me.
That's fair enough, I think. I certainly didn't finish Space Cam, and I never will, because it's too smart for me. And yet, again, Space Cam is a game, despite being incredibly hard and despite the fact that most people will probably have difficulty getting even 10 levels in, I would absolutely recommend it to everybody, because it's really clever and really satisfying. It's just the sort of thing that completely captivates your mind. And that's kind of the impression I'm getting of your opinion of The Bridge, at least, is that it's a really, really clever game that, despite being really difficult, is totally worth a play.
Yeah,
you said you hadn't finished it. Would you be disappointed if you didn't finish it, or could you quite happily cope with just having seen as much as you have?
Well, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go back and give the last section a try. But no, I'm not overly disappointed. I've got a lot out of it, and it's just kind of bested me at this point. I'm kind of slightly in awe of some of the level construction and what the thought that's kind of gone into that. As you say, it's definitely very satisfying when you solve one, especially if it's one where you've been stuck on for, I don't know, 40 minutes or an hour or a day on and off kind of thing. It's interesting actually. Quite a lot of the puzzles you kind of it just clicks with you and you get them and you do it pretty quickly. But then you run into one where it's just like a massive roadblock and you just kind of think, I sort of know what I think I need to do to solve this, but I've got to figure out how the mechanics are going to interlock on this one. Yeah, it gets tricky. It's also got some hidden, collectibles throughout the game as well. One of which I found completely by accident. I have no clue where the other 5 are, or even like what distinguishes the fact that they're there in the level. So that's the part I'm definitely not going to do. I would pretty much heartily recommend The Bridge if you're if you play stuff like Space Cam or Braid or something like that. It also, much like Braid, tells a sort of enigmatic narrative as it goes along, which I don't quite understand.
Braid also had the utterly pointless and ridiculously well-hidden collectibles in terms of the stars, one of which, if I remember rightly, you had to stand still for 3 hours to get, and there was no reward for them whatsoever, no achievement or anything.
It's weird. It's sort of, this game owes a lot to Braid's existence without actually taking anything directly. Well, the time reversal thing, but that's not really a mechanic. It's more of just a nice thing that means when you die, you don't have to start the whole level over again. It's kind of I think I saw or heard somewhere else someone describing it as it could sort of only exist post Braid, which I tend to agree with, but it's certainly distinct and different enough from it that you're getting a whole different experience. That is The Bridge. Look out for that review. I'm going to turn off my black and white now. Visual view.
I'll probably do the same.
So you can leave if you want.
Oh no, Tim.
No, I'm just going to.
I don't have to put an epilepsy warning on the video.
This is freaky, Tim.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go into a Thief Deadly Shadows level.
Excellent. It gives me good memories of Thief. So yeah, coming up will be that review.
I'm going to talk about something actually. I know I said I wasn't going to.
Oh, you have played something,
but,
Paul. Awesome.
Well, yeah, I'm
Good God.
No, I have been playing Path of Exile again, but the reason I want to bring it up now is because I've progressed further in it, and it's the first time I've progressed further in it since the thing went open beta. One of the things that's highlighted to me as I've been playing it was that really, I think a lot of people may be putting the game down as they progress through Act 1 because there's a lot of sort of empty gaps in the story and plot and narrative that isn't there in Act 1. But when you get to Act 2, things start becoming a little bit more interesting. The characters have a little bit more personality. You're kind of sent off on little side quests where you make decisions. This is something that was completely missing from the first act, and I think what I'm trying to say is I think people should actually stick with it and carry on through. And I actually was talking to Grinding Your Games CEO Chris Wilson last night about this, and he was saying to me that one of the things that they really want to go back and address with the game is the first act, because they're really aware of a problem, of this problem. But being a small development studio, I think 20 odd people or something like that, they are having to keep the game progressing through Act 3 and then obviously Act 4, which they have to develop before the final game is released later in the year. But they do actually want to go back and address some of this early stuff. It's just quite interesting going back and playing it again. But there was one point last night where I just about rage quit, which was really bad, because there's a bit where just going up in Act 2 where you're coming up to the final boss and you have to go up this pyramid, which is basically just like dungeon levels. And of course I got to the final boss, I died, and then went back. You go back to town and you go through the waypoint, and then you go to the closest waypoint, which is actually two levels below where the final boss is again. But unfortunately, the map has completely respawned and reset, so you have to you have to refight your way back up to the top of 2 levels. So I did that, and then it happened again, and I'm just thinking, either I'm a complete noob, but I'm gonna. And I couldn't actually face going back and doing the 2 levels again, so I just I quit out. But yeah. I am going to persevere and go through with it. But I actually mentioned that to him, and I think what he said was that they were going to try and change the map timers. In other words, in which case that instance resets. So there are still lots of problems like this where people may be thinking, oh, this isn't so good or whatever, but there are issues that are going to be addressed. Also, and a bit of an exclusive here actually, the next big content update is coming on the 6th of March, New Zealand time, where they are going to be adding a new skill and new, I think it's unique items. I haven't got the site in front of me, but that's on poe.incgamers.com, so keep your eye out on there. And just also welcome our latest staff member on poe.incgamers.com, who's just got the best name ever. So welcome to Dick Scotchfist.
Round of applause.
Deserves a welcome, certainly.
Yeah, so welcome to Dick Scotchfist. I know it's bizarre, but I told him not to change his name because I just thought it was brilliant. So he's helping out on the PoE site. So if you're playing Path of Exile, go to poe.incgamers.com, check out the news and join us in the forums. Oh, and quickly, actually, while I'm still yakking on here, we do have a Steam group now. There's an IncGamers Steam group.
That's right.
Yeah, so join that. Tim will be your friend, and he will keep you entertained.
That's optimistic.
Yes, that is optimistic. But
we'll all be your friends.
do join the Steam group.
Do so indeed. So yeah, coming up, well actually right now on the site we've got an Empire review, we've got a Guild Wars 2 sort of look at the recent Flame and Frost update. Yeah, bridge reviews coming up. I have finally, in keeping with our up-to-date reviews, I have some Crisis 3 code, so that review will be coming up at some point in the near future. Tim, I know we're waiting on Tomb Raider code, but that's most likely to be coming at some point.
Yeah, can I just address that point actually, just so that everybody knows, everyone who's coming to the site sort of goes, oh look, they haven't got the Tomb Raider review up when everyone else has got it up. That's because basically we are reviewing the PC version of the game. We're not reviewing the console version and putting it up as a PC. And what you find is, especially with companies like EA, is that they won't have PC code available on embargo dates. They may have it day one, and then we normally get it afterwards. If you're not sure about whether you're going to buy the game or not, then just hold on. The review will come up pretty quickly after it's come out, or just if not just before.
Yeah. Tomb Raider's out next week, I think. I'm expecting review code in kind of later this week, so with a bit of luck, we'll have a review of that prior to the game's release, or possibly simultaneous with. So if you're still undecided about that, you might want to wait until then. We should have something in fairly timely fashion.
Indeed. Paul, do you want to put out your plea for Facebook users and Twitter users?
Yeah, join our IncGamers Twitter and Facebook. Yay! So it's facebook.com/IncGamers and twitter.com/IncGamers. Also coming up this week, we'll be doing an interview with our favourite superhero developer. He's just the best. We will be talking to Ocean Quigley this week about SimCity, so keep an eye out for that too.
Absolutely, yes. Not quite as good as Dick Scotchfist, but on the other hand, it is his real name, so, on the whole, it's not a bad effort there by Mr. Quigley. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this week. We'll be back again next Wednesday with another pod full of PC news and games and all that stuff. We might have played some games that are more recent. Who knows? Actually, no, because I'll be talking about Crisis 3, which will have been out for a while. So never mind.
I'll be talking about Tomb Raider with a bit of luck.
That'll be timely. So that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll see you then, or talk to you then, whatever mode you're using. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.